Hey everybody, so how do people prep for the semester? Here I'm talking about faculty members or teaching assistants, research assistants, people who are responsible for teaching a class at the university level. So I teach music learning and teaching courses at Arizona State University. How do I actually prep for the semester? Right now I'm focusing on the organizational, sort of logistical aspects of prepping, but it also includes thinking through and reflecting on classes. My university uses Canvas as a learning management system, but all of my prep work and all of my thinking and preparation and organization for classes pretty much happens in Obsidian with some extra tools. So I'm going to take you through some of the processes that I use to organize classes. First of all, one of the things that takes me often a lot of time is just sitting down and thinking through what are all the class dates that my class meets, and when is each assignment due in related to those classes. Sometimes Canvas will update the whole system based on the prior semester, but a lot of times I make changes so things don't align directly, and I want to have things off of Canvas as well. Today, rather than going through the typical process where I go through my calendar and I'm looking at dates and then I'm lining everything up and making sure that I have all my dates correct, and then the assignments are the night before the classes and getting all those dates, I figured out a prompt to use in a large language model. I was using ChatGPT, and after a couple tries, I was able to get a bulleted list of all of my courses, the course dates, and also the assignment dates spit out in like less than 5 minutes. And so here's the prompt that I used. I'm going to show you what I did here. I made a meta prompt that I can use in the future that I'm storing in Obsidian. So I'm going to copy this, and here's ChatGPT. I teach a class that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays, starting on January 14th, 2025, and that ends on May 1st. Each class is a corresponding assignment that is due the day before. Create a bulleted list using the following rules and formats. Include each class date with the following format: class number, i.e. class 1, the name of the day of the week, i.e. Tuesday, and then the international date format. I like the international date format because in the US, a lot of folks will say like January 1st, January 14th, 2025, and the international format here, 2025 114. Include each assignment due as an indented bullet under the corresponding class date with the same date and format. And then on the following dates, the class will not meet because, you have those classes, whether it's during spring break or we have a conference coming up in February, so we won't be meeting on that class so that we can go to the conference. I put that in there and then continued the pattern of class number dates for days when the class meets, and for date when the class does not meet, use the following format because I want to remind people that the class doesn't meet on those dates, and I want this in my notes. So when I press enter, here comes ChatGPT with my bulleted list, and let me tell you, this seems sort of basic, but this saved me a lot of sort of time that's not thinking time. It's literally going through a calendar and finding these days and putting them in a list so that I can use it in the various aspects. And there's that Thursday, 2025 220, no class due to, here's saying scheduled break, but it could say anything else. I have conference. I'll fix that later on. But here's my list. That would have taken me who knows how long, at least an hour in the past, and kind of figuring it all through. So what I did is I copied and pasted this into my Obsidian. And now what I'm doing is I'm going through, and in Obsidian, I have a folder that's just courses I teach. And then when I open it up, I have all the different courses that I teach. And the one that I'm working on right now is MUE 415. I have archived. I have an MOC, which helps me overview, organize everything in Obsidian. And then I have my assignments and plans folder where I have each assignment is its own Obsidian file and each class is its own Obsidian file. And I use templates. I have templates that I'm continuously tweaking, but they are pretty much stay the same from year to year. So if we were to look at my template folder, if this were to be a new class, I would have everything from scratch. But here we have assignment template and class plan template. So if I open my class plan template, you have these properties up here that I use frequently. You could see that a while ago, I had this meta information here, which I no longer need to use. This assignment due, theme, in-class engagement slides. I can actually get rid of assignment due, meta information, I do like to have this theme. In-class engagement is just like a couple of quick notes that I can remind myself. Here's like the different activities or things that we do. And then I used to use like keynote slides for a lot of my classes, and I don't use those as often anymore. But if I do have some sets, I'll put the link to the slides with that. And I do use a application outside of Obsidian called Hookmark, which is really wonderful. And what that allows me to do is it allows me to create a markdown link to that keynote file and stick it in here. So when I click on it, it would open up the keynote file right from here. I know a lot of folks use Google Slides. Sometimes I do that, but a lot of my slides are in Keynote. Okay, so that's the class plan template. Here's the assignment template. You could see here the tag. What goes here is usually a tag for the class that the assignment's being used. And then the last time it was updated, it is an assignment status, and then the Canvas link, because again, we use Canvas. So then I link from this assignment to Canvas so that I have easy access to what students are actually seeing in the class, because they're obviously not seeing my Obsidian file. And then I make any tweaks that I want updates first in Obsidian, and then I will update it in Canvas after that. So you can see here, this is the format that I have for my assignments. I don't always include these headers, but I kind of like these as organizers, the generative questions, what the big idea is, and why the assignment matters, how it's contributing to someone's learning. So with those templates, if I were to create a new class, I would have everything from scratch. But here, I'm working with a class that I teach very often, almost every semester. So I already have those templates in place, but you'll see here, I just fixed the class 1. There's all this stuff from the last time around. And if I go into class 2, you could see the last time I updated this was in 2023, and that's partly because of sabbatical and course rotations and things of that sort. Now, why do I need a bunch of metadata for my files? What point is that? It's because if we go back to my meta document, I love using DataView plugin, which puts everything right at my fingertips. So this is the old version of of my DataView code. Here's a newer version of it. You'll see it. It's going to start updating. And the reason I like this is because when I open up my MOC, I can go to any class and click on it, and I'm right there. It's pretty awesome. And so it keeps me very organized, so I can spend less time in Canvas and more time in Obsidian. The other thing that I do with Obsidian, just so you know, you can see here I have a note to TAs and interns, is that I use Obsidian Publish so that all of my Obsidian files for my class, they're all published via Obsidian, and I use a password so that only the person who is interning or TAing in that semester has access. So they have access to all these files. And also the reason I have that is because these are all my plans. I call them plans of possibilities. I have a whole separate video on that. It's the way I think about curriculum at the sort of like class level. And one of the things I often do is I will change things throughout the semester. Sometimes even in the morning, I'll get inspired by a podcast I was listening to and I want to make a change. And so when I make that change, I can change it in Obsidian, hit the publish button, and then whoever is the TA or intern has immediate access to the most recent version of those files so that they know what's going on, especially if it's a little bit different from like when we discussed it at our last meeting about what would be going on in class. And I do update things quite often. So those are the templates. So now let's go through and we're going to take a look at how I organize each file for a class so that it's basically my teaching plan, my plan of possibilities, and how I use Obsidian to do that. So we're here in class 2. The very first thing is you'll notice that when I title my files, I title them with the name of the class and the class number and the date so that it's easy to identify over here on the left and just makes it easy for organizational purposes. The first thing I'll do is I'll change the date. I'm going to go here. We're now on class 2. I'm just going to copy this, paste it over, and then that's updated. Obviously, it will change in Obsidian. There it goes. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my template, insert template, class plan template, and there it is. You can see I showed you before the theme of the class, assignment due, and in-class engagement, because the meta information is now in properties. So a couple of things I'm going to change. I'm going to include the date now here, and the reason for that, as I mentioned before, is that will allow it to show up in data view for the MOC. the assignment link. So I go MUE 415 assignment 2, and now it links, because I'm using Obsidian's power of interlinking or backlinks. In my properties, I now have a link to assignment 2. I don't need to go looking for it, so I just click on it, and there it is, or I could hover over it. So I now have the assignment here and this here. So it's a property, which is nice. And if we go back to data view, which we'll do in a minute, I'll show you where that shows up. And then for the MOC, I'm going to do, again, backlink 415 meta MOC, and that allows this to be connected to the MOC for the class. And then class number is 2. I'm going to do class plan and then 415. This is a tag. So I have it tagged. What that allows it to do is it categorizes it so that when I run my data view, we're over here in data view now. I'm going to go to this meta MOC, and you'll see we're working with a new one here. This is the one that I just added. So you have the class, the date, the class number. This is pulling from the date field of properties, and this is pulling from the assignment link field. And if you're wondering, like, how did I design that? It's actually quite simple. I mean, that's all it is for data view. You can take a look at this here. You would obviously put your own information there, but class num corresponds to this property. Over here, date corresponds to this property, because the properties are just meta information. And then assignment link corresponds to this property. So then it's right there. So when I'm looking at my class, I'm going into the classroom, I'm setting up, and I want to get everything ready to go. I just open up, and then I just click on the class number. It takes me to the file, and I'm ready to go. And I mentioned earlier that when I'm working with these files and classes, I have multiple different apps that I use, and I actually have a macro set up that I've designed with Keyboard Maestro, so that when I get into class, I just do one hotkey, and it opens up all the stuff I need, including this meta MOC, along with a Google Doc and Canvas and whatever else I need for that class. I just go one hotkey, set up the whole macro, everything opens up, and I'm ready to go, and I don't have to go looking for things. It's pretty cool. All right, so I now have the meta information ready to go. I have this down here also so that I'm scrolling down. It's in 2 different places. I really think of the properties is for a data view, and then this information right here is for when I'm in the class. And you could watch my video on Plan of Possibilities about the way that I think about these class plans is it could happen sequentially in relation to the way that I have this designed, but often I'm popping around to different things as feels right, or what makes the most sense based on our conversations or who's in the class that semester and all that kind of a thing. But I know that typically when I look at a class plan and I'm doing my prep work, I can remind myself, all right, what is the point of this class? What are some of the goals and the themes? What kinds of engagement have we done in the past? What are the assignments that people would have done before the class? So here they will have read Linda McCoy chapters 1 and 2, and I create these idea docs. If you want to see what one of these looks like, it's sort of like guided reading, a scaffold for people reading through. I don't do this for every single reading, but for a lot of them, I do have idea docs. I have a lot more of them for undergraduate classes than I do graduate level classes. Often for the grad classes, I'll have a couple of idea docs in the beginning, and then that sort of scaffolds the process of reading. And then as people get further into the semester, sometimes I even invite students to create their own idea docs. But that's there so that I have a sense of what we might be talking about, and I would have read everyone's reading responses prior to class, so I'll have a good sense. And so as we're going through this plan of possibilities, one of the things I'm doing for prep work throughout the semester is, are there any big things I want to think about this semester that might be different or might build upon? I'm refreshing my memory. So here's why this course. We co-create our syllabus. There are not the entire syllabus, but there are aspects of the syllabus that we co-create. Logistics. I usually have a lot more than what we possibly will have time for. Musical circles exercise. And you'll notice also that here I have the musical circles exercise probably from many years ago, But then what I do is for any exercise, activity, etude, a learning etude, I have a separate file for it that I can update. And the reason for that, and this is, again, going back to prep work, here's this exercise that's been adapted. I might even adapt this again this semester, but I have how I've used it before. Sometimes connected reading related resources, sharing playlists, creating a playlist. Why do I have a separate file rather than just including it in here like I did originally? Because once that file exists, I can use it in any other class if needed, or any other circumstance. Let's say I'm doing a presentation somewhere and I want to quick access to that. I can just backlink to it and build into it because it's its own file. So when you're doing your prep work, I really encourage, especially with Obsidian, a sort of modularized approach where all the various things that you're doing can be their own files, and then you construct them in the way that makes the most sense in the file for the class that you're teaching. And each class has its own. And when I say class, I mean like the meeting day. This is class number 2. The course is Art of Teaching Contemporary Musicians. So when I'm doing my prep, this sort of first logistical pass is just like taking care of all the metadata and the class number, updating the assignment, tweaking the assignment if needed here at Canvas. So let's take a look at how I update the assignments now. Again, this is all prep for the semester. So here I have the assignment. It hasn't been updated in a while here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to update it with the latest template, insert template, and assignment template. And this is pretty different than the last time it was updated was 2021 for assignment number 2. And then the Canvas link to the assignment, that is pretty important. That Canvas link will change from semester to semester because each semester there's a different Canvas shell. So you could see here, one of the things that's newer that I've been doing is including these sort of headers with the assignments. Again, I don't do this for every assignment, but I'll probably go back through a lot of the Canvas and update these in Obsidian first and then update them in Canvas. So I do this first pass at the beginning of the semester. We're about a week before the semester starts. So actually, a week from today is when the first class is. Today, I'm doing my logistical pass and updating all the metadata and updating all the layout of things, putting everything in Canvas, making sure everything's ready to go. And then I'm going to do a deeper pass of bigger things that I want to change. I might want to move things around in different order. I know this semester I'm working on some new projects that I have not worked on in the past with this class, so that will affect things. And then, each week I'm thinking about the following classes and I'm making updates and tweaks. So it's very likely that a lot of these things will change over time. But to prep for the semester, I'm getting my logistical stuff in order first. And that is in dialogue with the bigger issues that I'm thinking. So I take notes in each document and then I archive them. So here's notes from 2022, more general notes, and this helps me calibrate. So for instance, one of the students in the class thought the assignments didn't match the class and that they were designed with a lecture approach to first discuss the main ideas and then have them appear in the reading. And we chatted through that. That was like early in the semester. It was an interesting observation. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but it is how the person experienced it. So it's like, oh, let me think through that a bit. And then I have notes from prior semesters. So over the years, I've been teaching this class for a long time. Over the years, I can draw upon what students' comments in class or points of friction or things that people are confused by. And that allows me to tweak, adapt, change, maybe throw out parts of classes or assignments and adapt them. And that's part of my prep process, is going back and reading through my notes. Also, every semester that I have an intern, so interns are doctoral students who work with me in these classes, I have them keep running notes of the class. So it's their experiences and their interpretations and their perspectives we talk about. And those are usually in Google Docs. And I will sometimes have the intern read the notes from the last. It's kind of an open process. So people have a sense of not only like things to think about from the semester, but it also shows how the class changes over time. It's really interesting to read back on those. And then I always like to reflect on the way that classes went and what happened and revise, and iterate the classes over time. And that's part of this prep process. There you go. That's the process. I'm really curious about how are you prepping for your classes? What are the cyclical ways that you update and modify classes? If you're using Obsidian, and if you have some efficiency moves that you do or tips and tricks to save time, love to hear it. Best wishes for the semester and all your prep work and teaching. All right, have a good one. Bye.